We are at the Lemont Area Historical Society. Chris, Tess here, and we have Terry Blanz with us. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good.
Both.
I have learned so much before we even sat down. That's the amazing thing about this. And in my travels doing podcasts around the South Side, I have seen some historical societies. I will tell you this honestly. I have been the guest of several area historical societies. This is the most interesting building. This is the most complete with displays. As people watch this video, they're going to see some of the footage that I took as you walk through. You're going to talk about it today. This may be the most complete and the most like a museum. Sometimes you get like a local historical society and it's just like, here's our big storage room that has like a bunch of stuff in it.
Yeah.
And you have set this up so you can give tours. Tell me a little bit about this building and what you guys do.
Let's start out with what are we? We're a 501(c) nonprofit. So
Okay.
What does that mean? That means that when you're paying taxes, and the taxes go to various things like the village, the township, the school district, the library, we don't get any of those taxes. But we have a lot of people that support us, and that's how we survive. And in fact, I'm going to get into some details of how do we survive a little bit later. We're in a building right now that was built in 1861. It was a Methodist church. And it was a Methodist church until 1970 when they built a new church. And at that point, they were going to sell it to the AT&T building. And AT&T was going to knock it down. So that's when the Historical Society was founded. They said, we can't let this gym fall apart. And we're going to be talking about Lemont as a gym through this presentation. So in 1970, the Lemont Area Historical Society was founded. Let's go back to 1861 for a minute. We were a recruiting station for the Civil War. At that time, General Grant, later on President Grant, came here, and he was recruiting.
Grant's been here.
Grant's been
in
here?
this building.
Yeah.
See, we keep walking into places, Tess, where I'm like, this feels like I'm in the middle of the 1800s. And again, I mean, and you know what you can always tell, and tell me, Terry, whether or not I'm wrong here. You can always tell it's old because everything seems a little smaller. I feel like everybody was just short.
Yes.
No offense, Tess, but I feel like
Thank
everybody was
goodness.
just. I feel like it's all fun size in here. Like,
Yeah,
it's like,
my people.
Exactly true, because this holds 120 people.
Yeah.
If I put 120 people in here, it'd have to be her size.
Yeah.
Your butts would be on top of one another. So, I mean, that's what it is. But yes, this is a very, very historical. It's the oldest church in Lemont.
This church has history. It's older. It holds history that's inside of it. Where do you get all of the pieces that you have? Are these donations? Is it just things where all of a sudden somebody decides they're going to tear down a building, they open up like a storage room, and they're like, voila, there's something that is really old here. Give it to the Historical Society. How do you come about these pieces?
People are giving us things all the time. In fact, that lady up there that you're going to meet later on, Pat Camilleri, she is in charge of our library. We have thousands. You just saw the downstairs. We have thousands of photos up there. We have old historic maps. We have all the yearbooks of Lemont up there. How do we get all these things? People are donating them to us all the time. It's a constant flow. In fact, I will say it now, my ultimate goal someday would be to have a second location, because you saw downstairs, we have so much information down there and it's just packed together. So we could expand into a second location. And the other thing is, who's gonna keep the history of Lemont today going forward? All those artifacts that's being created right now, we don't have the room. We want to talk about the exhibit. So
yeah, for sure.
How was this exhibit created? How did it get here? And all the things that it entailed to get here. And that's when I want to talk a little bit about Lemont being, you call it Lemont Unlocked. Let's talk about it as a pyramid, because what you're seeing here is the very tip of 22 different people that I had to contact to put this thing together.
Well, that's the amazing thing.
I'm going to go through this.
Just so people know what's behind Tess, okay? And she was strategically placed in the middle so that you could see
The
it.
shortest, of course.
But this is an actual piece of the North Tower of the World Trade Center.
Tower number 1, which is the North Tower.
And you currently have this display that's here. You're going to have a presentation coming up. So why don't you take people through that, because that's a little time sensitive in terms of like, that's something that's currently currently going on here at the Historical Society where people can come in and see it? I know you have somebody who's actually there that day who's coming to speak in the future.
Yes, okay. We're at 306 Lemont Street. We're open on Tuesdays and Fridays from 10 to 2, and we're open on Saturday from 10 to 1. But because of this exhibit, we're going to be open on Sundays from 2 to 4 until May the 18th. So if you want to come in, and I have volunteers that are going to be here on every Sunday. All of our board members are going to be here, each 2 or 3 per Sunday. They're going to be giving, again, tours about this exhibit.
September 11th, 2001. I know where I was at
I do
the
know
time.
where I was at as
Where were
well.
you at?
I was in 4th grade, so
Okay.
I was in a classroom.
Wow, way to make me feel old.
I know.
Tess. I've
I
never
didn't
felt
want
more
to
old
actually
in my
bring
life.
it up.
Wow.
But yes, I was in 4th grade, and I remember them bringing, of course, the TV into the room to watch what was going on.
Holy cow, you were in 4th grade.
I
I was
know.
broadcasting on the East Coast, and I was on the radio telling people what was happening as it was happening live, doing talk radio. And I was also in that little tip of West Virginia, if you look on a map that sits in between Ohio and Pennsylvania, and the plane that crashes in Shanksville, I actually saw from the top of the mountain because the AP and Reuters had reported the different planes that were still up there after they had grounded planes. And I'm looking at the map and I'm saying, I bet you I could see this plane that's up there. And I went outside and stood on the mountain that we were broadcasting on, and you could see it go by. And I probably saw it disappear over the horizon, and I probably crashed within 5 minutes after that happened. But I actually got to see the one when it was out. I'm probably one of the few people that can sit there and say, I saw that plane fly over.
Absolutely.
Because most people can sit there and say, well, I watched what was on television, but I actually saw that plane fly over. So very different experiences.
Very different experiences. But I feel like everyone of a certain age, of course, remembers exactly where they were, what they were doing on September 11th.
So tell us about this exhibit.
So let's just back up a second, because you were in 4th grade?
I was.
So this was in 2001, September 11, 2001. So people that are under 24 years of age, they've never heard of this.
No.
And this is one of the things that have happened in our lifetime. I mean, you can go through, as a historian, I have a degree in history. I mean, we can talk about, the Civil War. We can talk about the Revolutionary War. We can talk about how did we get into World War I when the Lusitania was bombed. How did we get in World War II? Oh, gee, this Imperial fleet of Japan decided to visit us in Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. This is one of the biggest things that have happened in our lifetimes. What has it created? I mean, when you go into the airport and you go to the TSA and you put your hands up and you take your shoes off, that's all as a result of this.
Yes, Tess, you don't know what it's like to have flown before that.
I actually don't know.
No. Like I was in my early 20s. You could just get on a plane and just you could walk on with whatever you wanted to in your pockets, and I mean I
do not know
it was just free form, just jump on and do whatever you wanted to. It was a big party. I think I walked on with a full beer one time.
No.
Nobody stopped me. Like it was wild back then.
And you just walk in like 4 minutes before it takes off.
Oh yeah, just get on the plane and go. Oh yeah,
no big
just
deal.
walk on and get on the plane.
I wish it was still like that.
So I'm going to just read this. This is first. Okay, let me talk a little bit about my wife. I'm sorry, my wife Darlene is sick today. I am the president of the Lemont Area Historical Society. My wife is the president and one of the founding members of the Children's Museum in Oak Lawn.
Okay.
Which is a fabulous place. I'll plug it for a little bit. It's right on 95th Street. It's west of Cicero Avenue. They have on an average of 400 people in there a day. They just had their 1 millionth visitor last year. They do a great job. So she was going to talk a little bit about how this exhibit was created, and I'm going to just read some of her notes real quick. Pardon me from reading it. So Lieutenant Clark in Oak Lawn had the inspiration to build a memorial for the first responders of 9/11. The Village Board of Oak Lawn got together with the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey to bring remnants of the World Trade Center to Oak Lawn. At that time, the beams were being held as crime scene evidence by the Port Authority. But anyway, they came in. They arrived in December 7th of 2010. A renowned sculptor, Eric Bloom, created an exhibit called Heralds of 9/11, and I'm going to show you a couple of pictures that are not going to show up really good, but this is actually 4 huge beams from the World Trade Center, and in those beams, and you can't see this, he actually molded faces of police and fire in the beams.
Yeah.
So if you ever, and that's one of the largest exhibits of the 9/11 in the United States. I recommend you go to Oak Lawn to see it. So anyway, he cut the beams, he made them, and at the end of completion of that, There was some pieces left over, which are here. And he went to Adam Woodworth, who is the director of the Children's Museum of Oak Lawn, and said, I'd like to donate those to the Children's Museum in Oak Lawn. Fine. So in 2012, they created this exhibit, which was called We the People. They changed it to America United, which is what it's called now. It's been to Muskegon, Michigan. It's been to Ottawa, Illinois, Wichita, Kansas. It's now in Lemont. I believe it's going to be going to other places like Aurora and maybe even Nashville. So we're very, very lucky to have this for the next 3 months.
You have a guy that was there that day that gave a talk already, but he's coming back. Tell me a little bit about him and when he's going to be here.
Okay, so Tim Collins is an amazing individual. He was on our board. Was an executive with Motorola. So let's back up. I'll give you a condensed version of his talk, which he gave on our opening house, and he's going to give again on March the 23rd, which is a Sunday, at 2:15, 2:30. So if you can make it one particular day, I would try to get here on March the 23rd. So what does Tim Collins do? Tim Collins is a genius, an engineer, etc. He worked for Motorola, and Motorola created, well, you said you were on the East Coast. These beams were originally bombed in the garage years earlier. And after they were bombed is your hand okay? You getting tired? Okay.
I did this for the last interview, and she volunteered it, and she regrets it now.
No, it is. Because I want to turn papers. I'm so glad you're doing it. I'm so glad you're doing it. So Tim Collins said after the garage was bombed, the Port Authority, which owns that, came to Motorola and said, we want you to create a badge. Okay, a badge that we can give to all of our 35,000 people that work in there. And it's going to be radio frequency, which means that you don't need a battery. And so when somebody comes in, if they steal one of our people, a terrorist comes, we'll know we can find them with the badge. Fine. So now comes 9/11. These get hit. The two towers go down. The Port Authority right away starts calling up Motorola and says, you've got to create something. We think there's a bus down there, possibly of children. They may be alive still. Can Motorola create something to find them? How is that going to be? So Tim spent 3 days with a bunch of engineers in Motorola, flew back here, and as you know, all the planes were escorted here.
Right.
They were escorted here. And he tells all the story of all the people that he met that were, the port authorities that were running everything. And he created a big, almost like a bed. Call it a magnet, but it's something that's going to register a radio frequency from badges, okay? So he's up there, and he's going to talk about this. I don't want to steal his thunder, but he's up there with this trailer in a crane for 2 weeks.
And they're looking for these RF badges.
They're looking for the
That's
badges.
incredible. He comes on what day again?
March the 23rd.
March the 23rd.
Which should be a Saturday.
Yeah. That is incredible. Tess, I know that you've been, first of all, handling the mic exceptionally well during this. Okay.
Extremely.
But we did the tour downstairs, and we looked around the museum. Yep. Was there anything that stood out to you or something that you'd love to ask Terry?
Yeah, absolutely. So you showed us a back room where essentially families are able to donate either items that they have or photos that they have where they are just generationally from Lemont, 6-7 generations, which is fantastic in and of itself. So would you mind telling us a little bit more about that room? Yeah,
that was a room we created, I think, about 3 years ago. We call it the Friends and Families of Lemont room, because it's not just, it should be for organizations too. So the Friends and Families of Lemont room is for people that are here, like you said, generations. My wife is 5 generations here. It was created with some money we got from a woman that lives in Sweden, and her 8th generation, she's 8 generations away from John Kettering of Kettering Estates, and anybody that lives in Kettering Estates, that was on a farm from a man that owned by the name of John Kettering. She gave us money, and we had some more money from some other people, and we created that room downstairs. We want people to come, and if you have a family, if you're here for 2, 3, 4 generations, just go to Dollar Tree, get yourself a board, show us pictures of your family, your tree, etc., and put it down there. We just had the Lemont Garden Club do that. as I say, it's in process. My original goal was, I'm going to have so many people in there, we're just going to put all this stuff up for 3 months and flip it and do another one. It isn't that way. It still isn't done, and it's been 2 years. But it's a work in progress, and it's just a very neat idea.
The location, again, of this amazing historical society, for those that haven't been over
306 Lemont Street.
It's absolutely incredible. I think it's really great that you're able to kind of show us around in here. And I think that this display is, you mentioned it, it's from the Children's Museum in Oak Lawn, but I think it's interesting to many more than just children, and we've looked around it. It's very interesting. I think you even have something over here to kind of like says how does it explain the children?
Yeah, let me,
you understand that because you were in the 4th grade. Yes. I don't, because I was an adult. Again, I'm old.
Hardly.
Let's explain a little bit like this. When the Children's Museum in Oak Lawn created this, it was for the stress was for children. I'm stressing it as history.
Yes.
But over there's these 2 tables over there. They're called talk-back tables. And they want children there's little mirrors that you can, on one side of the mirror is a picture of a child. Maybe he's crying, maybe he's happy. And on the other side is a mirror. And they're asking their children to look at the mirror and say, what is that emotion? And do you have the same emotion? And then write it on a sheet of paper. And as you can see, if you go along you can't see, but over there along the walls, we started hanging the little things that these children have started seeing and writing down. Do you have any questions about this exhibit right here?
No, I think the exhibit's amazing.
We want people to come.
We want people to come. You can actually touch the beams, although I felt weird touching the beams.
People felt like, should I? Come on, I feel it. It's a very emotional thing, and it's a temporary exhibit. We only have it for 3 months. Please come here. We'd love to have you.